10 years, and in some ways since I was a junior in high school, I think when the seed first got planted. And it's a show about Walt Whitman. And what we're working on here is particularly, perhaps it's best understood as kind of a postmodern musical. You know, if you think of a theatrical musical where there's the story that happens on stage and then a bunch of singing and dancing happens and it sort of moves the show along, but then the singing and dancing stops and the show moves along again. And this is somewhat in that direction. But the idea comes from the first time that this show was on stage was now about 17 months ago. And it was with 2 actors and 18 male dancers. And that entire process of all of the rehearsals and the performances, Nancy was part of the crew from the beginning as a dance videographer, recording it with the intention that at some point in the future there would be a version that would be just one actor on stage and the dance would be reintegrated into the show via video projection. And so Clemens and Oscar are here working on the video projection aspects of it. And what we're going to be really curious to know from you is your experience of the dance in particular as it fits with the rest of this piece. And we'll have more specific questions for you later. But what I do want you to know is that we're really thinking about this as an open rehearsal. Okay? There are layers that will be worked on after our process at Nancy is finished. More of the dramaturgy, more of me being directed specifically as an actor. But we had to get it to this point to get the dances up on the projections. For me, even as an actor, to figure out how do I live with all of these dancers here in a virtual world. But since this is an open rehearsal, if we mess something up, I might stop and go look at my script, or Oscar might say, Patrick, stop, you know, we need to go back 3 minutes, you just skipped something, and I have a cue in there that, so we're going to do our best to get through this, but we may need to stop along the way, and if we do, that's because that's what you do when you're in rehearsal. So we're about to get started. Before we do, I just want to express some thanks to the Ignite Foundation, which gave me the fellowship that connected me to Mansi, to Mansi for the invitation to come down here and have the time to work and explore. It's almost disorienting as an artist to have such a luxury of time to work. To the staff at Mansi, to other people who've been part of the entry points that Nancy has organized, and with particular thanks to Ben Gunter, who's been here and offering theatrical advice all along, and then to my new friend Hannah, who's good friends with a friend of mine, Judith, back in Minneapolis, and to my old friend David, who knew me back in 1982 when I was living in a loft in downtown Minneapolis, back in the days when lofts were something that meant, well, you're lucky if there's plumbing, as opposed to it being something in a fancy apartment building now being built to sell to people as condos. So that said, we're going to go, thanks to all of you, lastly, for coming and being an audience for us so that we can share this with a group of people, because you only really know the material once you have the time to do it a lot and do it in front of an audience and share it and bounce that off. So this is our first time with this, with anywhere near this number of people, usually with maybe 2 or 3 other people in the room at most. So thank you so much for coming and being part of this open rehearsal. We will have a short Q&A when it's all over, so if you can, we'd love it if you stay for that.
All set? Ready?
Ready?
Good.
Head, neck, hair, ears, drop and tipping of the ears, eyes, eye fringes, iris of the eye, eyebrows, and the waking or sleeping of the lids, mouth, tongue, lips, teeth, roof of the mouth, jaws and the jaw hinges, nose, nostrils of the nose, and the partition, cheeks, temples, forehead, chin, throat, back of the neck, neck slew, strong shoulders, manly beard, scapula, hind shoulders, and the ample side round of the chest, upper arm, armpit, elbow socket, lower arm, arm sinews, arm bones, wrists and wrist joints, hand, palm, knuckles, thumb, forefinger, finger joints, fingernails, broad breast front, curling hair of the breast, breastbone, breast side, ribs, belly, backbone, joints of the backbone, hips, hip sockets, inward and outward round, man balls, man root, strong set of thighs, well carrying the trunk above, leg fibers, knee, knee pan, upper leg, underleg, ankles, instep, foot ball, toes, toe joints, the heel.
Having calculated close, I find no sweeter flesh than sticks to my bones. Published reviews. An American bard at last. You have come in good time, Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman, the begetter of a new offspring of literature. I like reading those, especially because I wrote them anonymously. During my lifetime, I defended myself. I had to. I did not gain acceptance in my own time. So I fell back on fond dreams of the future. And that future is here now. And so I've come back today to be with you, to set the record straight, so to speak. Given all that's transpired since I passed in 1892, this is necessary. I mean, we have made great progress since then, but not always easily. 1957, they're about to open a great new bridge between Philadelphia and Camden, New Jersey, to be named the Walt Whitman Bridge, but not without a fight. the Bishop of Camden instructs his entire flock to write to the Bridge Commission, warn them of the dangers of associating architectural landmarks with homosexuals. Fortunately, the counter-arguments were numerous and varied. My favorite of all is this. If the church is so intent on not having architecture associated with homosexuals, they ought to tear down the Sistine Chapel. The counter-arguments prevailed, and the bridge was named after me, as have been 14 public schools in these United States. 14! Now, how many do you suppose have been named after Ginsburg? 0. Well, to be fair, the Berkeley Arts Elementary Magnet School does have an Allen Ginsberg poetry garden. And perhaps one day we can have a poetry slam. The Whitman Howler, the Ginsberg Howlers versus the Whitman Comrades. 3rd grade choral readings of I have seen the best minds of my generation destroyed versus I sing the body electric. Oh, but I digress. My old habit of dreaming about the future. Let me go back, begin to amend the record. Leaves of grass. This is no book. Who touches this? Touches a man. Is it night? Are we here alone? It is I you hold, and who holds you. I spring from the pages into your arms. I feel 100 realities in me that words are not yet formed to represent. Men, like me, will gradually get to be more and more numerous, and then the words will follow. Manly friendship, the unfolding word of the ages, a word of the modern, a word en masse, a word of faith that never balks, a password, primeval, allowing me to speak in forbidden voices, stripping away veils. The words do not exist for me to write myself, to write my life. So I invent, trusting when language is needed, the words will surely follow. Now, I find that most men suffer a lack of language. The young men of these states are possessed of a wonderful tenacity of friendship, passionate fondness for their friends, and always a manly readiness to make friends. But they possess remarkably few words for the friendly sentiments. Such words do not thrive here amongst the muscular classes where the real quality friendship is always found. There are words that the muscular classes rarely use, have an aversion for. They never give words to their most ardent friendships. And yet I believe that the main purport of these states is to found a superb friendship, exalté, previously unknown, because I perceive that it waits. and has been, always waiting, latent in all men. Bellini, the finest in the world. I too am not a bit tamed. I too am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yawp over the roofs of the world. Now, how is that for a great phrase? Barbaric yawp. You won't find yawp in Noah Webster. He goes right from yawning to yaws. Let's begin a poem. Together, all of us. I like to start with lists. Include everything. Even make things up. Here, I'll give you an example. Sometimes, with one I love, I fill myself with rage for fear I effuse unreturned love. But now, I think there is no unreturned love. The pay is certain, one way or another. Doubtless, I could not have perceived the universe or written one of my poems if I had not freely given myself to comrades, to love. Did you catch that? To comrades? Put that into our list. That's Greek. And Greek, put that into our list. Are you following me? Let me make myself perfectly clear. When I say Greek, I mean Greek like Achilles, Alexander the Great, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, Sophocles. I mean Greek like Apollo and Hercules and even Zeus. Gods and men, they all had male lovers. Today I say Greek, and my inner circle understands. I tell Emerson, we must find muscular words to make the literature of these states strong and limber, full of ease and passionate friendliness. A language applicable to men, not fond of women, and to women, not fond of men. And we must repeal that filthy law that silences sex and the body. And Emerson laughs. defy the Puritan Trinity, taboo, silence, non-existence. I long to sing songs that I've not yet heard, the strongest and sweetest yet to remain to be sung. So I invent, like adhesiveness. Put that into our list. That's my invent. Well, I didn't actually invent adhesiveness. I borrow it from phrenology, but I give it new meaning. Here is adhesiveness. It is not previously fashioned. It's apropos. Do you know what it is as you pass to be loved by strangers? Do you know the talk of those turning eyeballs? These yearnings, why are they? These thoughts in the darkness, why are they? Well, this inventing, when the Greeks already had language. But when I read of the brotherhood of lovers, how it was with them, how through life, through dangers, odium unchanging, long and long, through youth and middle and old age, how affectionate and unfaltering and faithful they were. Then, I am pensive. I hastily put down the book and walk away, filled with the bitterest envy. I envy the ancient Greeks, their brotherhood of lovers, their world, their words. I inherit Greek as a code word, and a miserable Latin phrase, peccatum illud horribile inter Christianos non nominandum. Have you studied Latin? Neither have I, but I'll translate this for you. Peccatum, sin. Illud horribile, so horrible. Inter Christianos, amongst Christians, non nominandum, not named. The sin so horrible that Christians should not speak its name. Well, no wonder we English speakers are nervous talking about it, lest ideas spread to people who would not have had these ideas if they hadn't heard our words. The preeminent British jurist yes, here it is. Sir William Blackstone says of sodomy, the very mention is a disgrace to human nature. Listen to the silence. Who dares defy this? Jeremy Bentham, yes, he writes, I have been tormenting myself for years to find sufficient ground for treating sodomy with the severity with which it is treated by all European nations. I find none. Bravo, Jeremy Bentham. Brave words, and written only one generation after Blackstone. Unfortunately, Mr. Bentham, you write these words, but you never publish them. Let's come back to the other side of the Atlantic for a lesson in American colonial history. One perhaps that your history teacher skipped. I'm going to read to you the words here of the Reverend Francis Higginson. He's writing in his journal on board the ship Talbot, sailing for New England. We examined 5 beastly
sodomitical boys which confessed their wickedness, not to be named. The fact was so foul, we reserved them to be punished by the governor when we came to New England. The governor sent the boys back to be punished in Old England as the crime deserved. In Old England, they would be hanged for a crime that could not be named. New England was quick to catch up with the old. Plymouth colony was the first to establish a death penalty for peccatum illud horribile, and New York colony was right on its heels, where one Jan Creoli was found guilty of the crime of sodomy. And his sentence? Choke him to death! And burn his corpse to ashes. Each of our 13 colonies has a death penalty for sodomy. Born on Long Island, not 10 miles away, across the Sound in Connecticut, they still had a death penalty for non nominali. North and South Carolina don't get rid of the death penalty for it until well after the Civil War. What to do? To hell with the Puritans and all of their rules. I am naked by the 11th line of Leaves of Grass. Count with me. I celebrate myself. And what I assume, you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. Houses and rooms are full of perfumes.